Hello everyone, Sheik here with another Transformers review, and today I'll be reviewing the Transformers Studio Series 86 Autobot Springer. This is later class Springer. I've heard he's a little bit bigger than the Siege Voyager Springer that was released. I did want to get Siege Springer when he first came out, just he was hard to find, and then later on online he was like really overpriced. I was like, I really don't want to pay that much for a battle damage one. And then they did the Wreckers version. I was like, that looks kind of cool. It doesn't have the battle damage, but the colors aren't quite right. And from what I heard, he does transform a little bit differently, and I think is slightly smaller than this version of Springer. So I really don't know. I wish I had him so I could do a side-by-side. But then again, if I did, maybe I wouldn't have been as likely to actually shell out the $55 for this guy. Which, if you ask me, was still pretty worth it, considering that I didn't have the Springer. I did have a third-party one that was like Masterpiece scale, but honestly, I don't have very much Masterpiece anymore. I do have a couple, but I just try to keep characters that I don't care as much about around. And I don't plan on getting a whole lineup of the Masterpiece. I was like, I'll just stay with the Chug. Anyway, enough blathering on. Obviously, this is him holding the sword that comes with him, the accessory, not the actual rotor blade, which if you want that, you can just plug that in, and it's a much bigger sword, but it's green to more closely match the color of the rotor. At least I'm pretty sure the rotor was green in the show and movie. I don't know, and I'm sure it possibly changed from time to time, so it's hard to tell for certain. He does come with a few other accessories. He comes with a Wrecker hammer. It doesn't have the actual logo on there, it just has the outline of it. And then you can see like some wear and tear on it. I don't know how close the IDW Springer is to the G1 Springer. I think it might be closer to the Generation Selects, I do believe was the, or Generations, or either Universe or Generation Springer, which honestly, really cool mold. Not at all accurate to G1, but cool car mode and a cool helicopter mode. Anyway, he also comes with a rifle, which I think looks pretty cool. I don't know if he used it regularly in the show or in the movie. Maybe he picked it up at one moment. And then he comes with these two smaller handguns, which might be more closer to the original G1 toy, not so much what he used in the movie. But and again, I'm so sure I didn't pay that much attention to all the weapons and stuff. And then he comes with this shell, this artillery shell. I don't know if the scale is right, if it's a little too big. I know the third-party one I got came with one similar to this, but it was significantly smaller in comparison. Like the Springer was Masterpiece size, and the one that came with him was that one was a bit smaller than this. So scale definitely very different for those. Now this one I would like to say is more accurate. Now, obviously, as mentioned, he is more closer to Voyager class scale. He's like I said, I wish I could have him side by side, but I don't. But that's why they have all these extra accessories. This makes sense. It showed up in the movie, so I'll give him like okay, good on that one. Sword, alternate sword that might be more tune accurate, but isn't accurate to the way the rotor looks. Okay, I can give him that. Rifle if he used this in the show, and then the two other little guns if that's what he had as a G1 toy. The Wrecker hammer seems a little gratuitous, head nod to nod to the Wrecker comics and all that, but as for the movie 86, it's just like an excuse to make it more of an excuse to make it leader class price point. But I gotta hand it to them, they actually did a fairly decent job. I know there are some people that really don't like this mold. I don't exactly see why that is. But then again, like I said, I don't have the Voyager ones. I don't know if they really improved it all that much. I did have some gripes initially when I first got him. Like I think like the shoulders seemed a little bit off to me. Had trouble transforming it a little bit, but I think once I got it broken in, he did start to work a little bit better. I will also say that there is some stress marks on these clips. But I don't know if that's from me just being a little rough with it, or if it's just due to transformation and stuff. But I will say this, when you splitting the legs, I do not recommend doing that. That puts a lot of stress on it. just pull like that, and then that pops them apart quite easily. I will say the snap-on tires on the back and the bottom wheels do annoy me just a little bit, but they're the better ones. That's less visible, so I don't care so much. And then these are pinned on. They are plastic. They are not rubber like on Sandstorm, or at least on Sandstorm they're a soft rubbery-ish plastic at the very least. But Sandstorm also has a couple issues, but I think they're both really good overall. And of course, a separate video for Sandstorm. I do like the detail on his noggin, although on my copy it looks like they messed up the paint just a little bit. Like there might be a way to remove that, but I'm not sure. And then of course I do like the colors of his colors. And then I will say, ever since, don't remember which YouTuber it was, but said that it might have been MGO, but I'm not sure. It was a long time ago that I watched it. But it was a review of G1 Springer, and that he looks like a lawnmower, like just weird versions of a lawnmower in his alt modes. Anyway, storage for weapons. You can store stuff on his back. Pretty sure that, yeah, right there. You can store things right there. You can, if you'll notice, there's a peg in that little tab so that it can fit in that hole, and then tab in right there. If you rotate these out, you can put the wrecker hammer right there. And then looks like these also have tabs, but they're not quite the right size. At least this one does. And then obviously that won't go there because that is for the rotor. Not much else for robot mode storage. Obviously you can put stuff on the legs if you so desire. And then one last thing I forgot to point out with the guns is that these two can go together to form a kind of silly long rifle thing, but it's whatever if you want to do that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that. So articulation, the head is on a ball joint. He can't really look up and down that much, pretty much no side to side. You can do a full 360. Arms can go out about that far. Can't quite do a full 360. Wait, it's not, unless you try to force it, but I recommend not doing that. But besides, you get pretty much all the range of motion you really need from this guy, as it is with that bicep, well, not quite bicep rotation, more like elbow rotation. So there's a strike against him in that regard, but it's mostly uniform anyway, so it's not as noticeable. You do get a little over 90-degree bend at the elbow, wrist rotation, nice and stiff, and then you have a hand that opens up on both sides. Looks like there might be little tabs to hold on to stuff. Let's see. This unfortunately does not have any slots, so it's like what he's supposed to hold. I'm not exactly sure. Like for example, since he can't really hold this, I mean, there is a tab so you can put it on his back, but it seems a little gratuitous and kind of pointless, whatever. But yeah, so that's it for that. And then on this arm, there's one little thing I forgot to point out. Although I know, I'm sure it's in the movie, but it looks like a little, I don't know, communications thing or just a little gun. I have no idea really what it is. The downside is that you can't have it out with, it's not like you flip it out and then you can leave it out. It's just you leave the arm open, you have to and then you flip it out. It's something. I'm sure it was an episode or in the movie, and I'm just not remembering it because it obviously didn't stick with me if I can't really remember what it was. Oh yes, the rest of articulation, there is waist rotation, although this hinge in the back gets in the way, but realistically, unless you're wanting to have him turn all the way around, like Megatron did in that one episode in the original show, that's about all you really need anyway. Like, so forth that far, back that far, he can do the full splits. He gets a nice thigh rotation, over 90-degree bend at the knee, and then lots of ankle tiltage, and to an extent you can also move his feet around. So that's pretty much it for his robot mode. So question, Car or helicopter? Car or helicopter? And here we have Springer in his first alt mode. It's his car mode. I will say it is a little bit tricky to get everything to line up and stay lined up. Looks like it's not quite lining up perfectly right in there, but oh well. It's not always so it is difficult to get it transformed perfectly. He does have visible thigh, crotch, hand, and head syndrome to a degree in his vehicle mode, but I don't really care that much because it's all pretty much hidden. I mean, even on the sides where you can see his hand, it's not too glaringly obvious. I mean, it is kind of obvious, but not that obvious. And besides, he's a futuristic car mode. I mean, that's not even for a proper car. That's like only holds like, I don't know, one person tops realistically. So I mean, it's very impractical, if you ask me. I mean, it looks kind of cool, but completely impractical. And obviously, same places, you can put weapons here, and then also here, right in there, and then of course the larger gun you can put up there, as well as the hammer. I feel like something's probably out of alignment, at least just a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but something, because I feel like it's not quite sitting right, but for the most part, I think it's where it needs to be. I do like the way they have these kind of, I think it's very interesting. You can also have them flipped in if you want, especially for like a storage kind of configuration, if you don't want them to get caught on anything. But I think it's a kind of cool look you can go with. I will admit, the third party one I had, it did look a little bit bigger for the car mode. I don't know if this is more movie accurate or not. My guess would be maybe not, because why would the third party make a bigger bubble other than it just looks better? And it also had headlights there, but I mean, obviously that's just some. I don't even know if that's even anything in the movie, but that was really cool, that pop-up headlights. But that's just some cool little thing that a third party company decided to add that probably isn't even technically canon. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for his car mode. So let's get him to helicopter. And here we have Springer in his helicopter mode, and I would say out of his alt modes, this one is the better mode. Obviously, because that makes more sense for a helicopter cockpit. It's cockpit, given the size overall of the whole thing, though, still a bit small, but it's easier to believe a one-person helicopter, in my opinion, than a large one-person car. That spins quite nicely. I do like the way that spins. I like the way everything flips around to click into place. In some ways, this configuration feels a little bit more sturdy, a little sturdier. But I will say, what is my biggest gripe? My biggest gripe about at least on this side, like something like that one tends to be a little bit flip-floppy, but right now it's not too bad. First time I transformed those into helicopter mode, these were not going to stay in position, and it was really annoying. But yeah, I think overall this, other than robot mode, because robot mode's obviously the best. Usually with triple changers, one or two modes suffer at least a little bit, like they all have to sacrifice something so that the overall figure can be pretty decent. But I think this is a pretty good representation of Springer. Like I said, I think his helicopter mode is his best alt mode. And I will say, though, one gripe I do have about the sword, which turns into the rotor, is that it does look a little bit weird with it being the same, like instead of having it flipped. Because I do remember the other one, instead of going to sword configuration like that. I mean, I still think this is pretty nifty way of doing it, but instead the other one, it folded up like this and then went together, which I thought was really inventive, rather than this one. This one's a little bit simplified, but I will say at the very least it is a pretty decent rotor. Well, that's pretty much it for Transformers Studio Series 86 Leader Class Springer. And if you like this review and you'd like to see more, please click that like and subscribe button to see more. And until next time, have a good one, everyone.